Hello everyone and welcome to another random bits and pieces segment from my brain, and today it's a while for we are playing some more Franchise Hockey Manager 6 as part of the Ottawa Senators. So it's been a minute since I've actually played this game, and in real life the Stanley Cup finals are finally behind us. So it was very different this year with the hockey and the bubble and whatnot. So Tampa Bay defeated Dallas in 6 games, and if you go back a few videos of mine, you're gonna see that that's exactly what I called. I said Tampa Bay would win in 6, and that's exactly what happens. So yay for me, I guess. Bragging rights. Alright, so we're gonna get in the thick of it since we haven't played this in like a week or something. As usual, I've decided on my lineup before we enter the regular season. There's a few surprises. Not that many, mostly on D, as usual. It always seems like the surprises I have are on D. So there's a few familiar faces that we've seen on our D for a few years that are not gonna be there for just at least for the start of this season. So let's take a look. So in net, it is still Brian Elliott and Antiniemi. That was pretty much a given. On D, I am keeping Zdeno Chara, Alex Pietrangelo, Mazzaros, Yossi, Dowdy, Carson, and I'm going to give a shot to Yoni Pitkanen. He didn't have a very good training camp, but I just acquired him from trade, so I'm going to try and give him a shot. If he's too terrible, we might switch that up. So of note that you don't see in there are mostly Anton Volchenkov and Ryan Whitney. So Ryan Whitney has not really been playing all that great since I got him. I think he's kind of a victim of, Pietrangelo and Carlson and Dowdy playing, right defense. So that could have played a part in it. So he's starting in the minors. He's probably going to be my first call-up if I have an injury or something like that. At forward, not many surprises, except maybe for one. So we have Datsuk, Filatov played most of last year, Chris Kelly, Sam Gagner, Brooks like. Now Braden Shen is going to start with the Sens this season. Radulov, Bergeron, David Leguan, whom I have also acquired through trade. Joe Thornton, Zach Smith played last year as well. Patrick Eves, Eric Condra, and Jason Spezza. So I have, I believe, quite a good mix of scorers and defensive forwards and whatnot. So we'll see what all happens with all of that. So we are going to start simming now. So the first game of the season is going to be in Detroit. Now, Detroit is not in the East yet, and as I mentioned in the last video, now the Jets are back, and the first season, I believe it was only the first season they were there, they actually were in the East as they just, took Atlanta's spot, so it didn't make much sense geographically wise to have Winnipeg in the East, but I don't think that fans in Winnipeg cared much. They were pretty happy to get their team back. Alright, so let's get going. Alright, so all of those guys have to clear waivers. Alright, and if I remember correctly, I cannot get anybody. Right, I cannot. I have 50 contracts. I cannot get anyone. That's a long scouting report. I'm still going to check who's, available, even though I can't, just for curiosity's sake. Peter Budaj. Then Chris Stewart. Oh, he just retired in real life. He just announced his retirement like a couple of days ago. So Chris Stewart was the waiver with the biggest potential. Maybe I would have claimed him. I have no room to, so we will not think about it. Wait, is that Olli Jokinen? Wow, he's declined fast. That's crazy. Olli Jokinen is only a 1-star player now. He's 32. Alright. Now the preview. With the National Hockey League season about to get underway, the early Stanley Cup favorites appear to be Ottawa, led by winger Jason Spezza. General manager Jesse Bellum, hey, that's me, has built a squad that will be the team to beat this year, but they can expect challenges from Bob Gainey's Montreal Canadiens and Chicago featuring winger Patrick Kane. Among the dark horses, Nashville stands out as a possible challenger with a big season by Pekka Rinne capable of pushing them into contender status. The scoring race will likely see Pittsburgh's Sidney Crosby challenged by Joe Pavelski of San Jose and Ottawa's Jason Spezza. The top defenseman in the league is generally considered to be Nashville Predators blue liner Shea Weber, with Chicago's Duncan Keith and Jay Bouwmeester of Florida also in the running. Finally, among goaltenders, Montreal's Carey Price stands out as the league's best, while Washington Capitals netminder Tuukka Rask and Pekka Rinne of Nashville can also steal games for their teams. Alright, it promises to be pretty interesting. Now we have a little bit of a revenge to take on Montreal, and they're going to be good again. So, I mean, they have Carey Price in net, so that definitely helps. But they also have a very well-rounded team, kind of like us. We have a very well-rounded team as well. At least I feel so. Alright, so we start this season in Detroit against the Wings. So still a Western team, like I said earlier. Obviously, no record against them. We're going to take a look at their lineup here. Oh, they only have 21 players on roster, and one of them is injured and may or may not play. Alright, so in net, the Wings are going with Jimmy Howard and Curtis Sanford. So Jimmy Howard is pretty good, 4-star player. On D, Kevin Dahlman is hurt, may or may not play. He's one of their best defensemen. Alec Martinez, Matt Bartowski, Ryan Caldwell, Andrew Hutchinson, Carl Gunnarsson, and Jacob Kindle on D. So that D is not all that great overall. At forward, they have David Booth, Johan Franzen, Corey Silman, Ryan Clough, Kyle Chipchura, Darren Elm, Sean Matthias, Gustav Nyquist, Pesonen, Mersak, Adler, and Zetterberg. So decent forwards, good goaltending. The D is average. Like Alec Martinez should be a little bit better than that. I would take, well, 2-star potential. Yeah, that's about right, I think. Yeah, we'll see what we can do against the Wings. Alright, so we start that on the road in Detroit at the Joe Louis Arena. Brian Elliott is going to be our starting goaltender to start the season, and Jimmy Howard is going to be in net for Detroit. And as usual, I need to start the season with a Go Sens Go. And we won 3-2 in overtime, so we had to work first game of the season. We did outshoot Detroit 48-13. Jason Spezza was the first star of the game. He had 2 assists. Kevin Dahlman was the second star with 2 assists, playing injured. And Erik Karlsson was the third star with a goal. So Detroit scored first. It was 1-0 Detroit at that point, and then they scored in the second period to make it 2-0. But before the end of the period, freshly acquired Yoni Pitkinen scored his first goal in a Sens uniform from Nikita Filatov and Sam Gagner, and it was 2-1 Detroit after 2. And then in the third period, Zdeno Chara tied the game with an assist from Jason Spezza. It was tied at 2. We went in overtime. Very few penalties in that game, by the way. And in overtime, Erik Karlsson played the hero 16 seconds in with a goal from Jason Spezza and Patrice Bergeron. All of our goals were scored by defensemen in that game. So I do like a team that's able to get offense from their D. Not at the cost of defense, though, but I do like that a team that has a D that's able to contribute. It's very, very, very important. All right, so good start. And I don't mind the point that we drop to the Wings because they play in the West, so it doesn't really affect us for our standings. All it might affect is, you know, in the playoffs, if they need that point to make the playoffs or something. Alright, and we don't have a whole lot of time to rest because right after that one game in Detroit, we played the next day in Toronto against the Leafs. Now, the Leafs also played prior to that game, and they won. They are 1-0. So we're going to take a look at our provincial rivals. And, oh, another team that's barely carrying any players. They only have 20. Oh, they do have Jonas Gustafsson on the injured reserve, so he's hurt. So in net, it's James Reimer and Garrett Sparks. So on D, we have Adrian Aucoin, Sergei Gonchar, Matt Unwick. Oh, Matt Unwick signed in Toronto. Luke Shen, Ian White, and Keith Ballard. So that D is, yeah, it's okay. It's not the best, but it's not too terrible. Brad Boyce, Pony Karovsky, Alex Steen, Yuri Tulusti, Leo Komarov, Jason Williams, Travis Zajac, Nick Antropov, Rennie Borg, David Moss, Nikolai Kuliman, and Eric Cole. So the goaltending is not that great. The rest of the team is not too bad. So let's see if we can beat Toronto. 2 games in 2 nights. We're going to go with Antti Niemi for that one. Toronto's going with James Reimer, who got a shutout in his first start. Alright, well, let's see if we can change that here. Ha! We got the shutout. We won 5-0. So pretty good game all told. We outshot Toronto 49-25. Jason Spezza was the first star. He had 2 goals and an assist. Drew Doughty was the second star with a goal and an assist. And Zdeno Chara was the third star with an assist. So we took a 3-0 lead into the first period. We had Drew Doughty score the first goal. And at that point in time, our first 4 goals of the season were scored by defensemen. And that goal was assisted by Zdeno Chara and Chris Kelly. Then Jason Spezza scored on the power play from Eric Carlson and Braden Shen. Then Pavel Datsyuk from Jason Spezza and Drew Doughty. It was 3-0 Sens after 1. In the second period, Eric Condra saw some power play time. That is not real life for sure. So Eric Condra scored on the power play from Joni Pitkinen and Patrice Bergeron. 4-0 Sens after 2. And finally, in the third period, we scored again on the power play. It was Jason Spezza from Joe Thornton and Alexander Radulov, and 5-0 was the final score. So we made them pay with their indiscipline by scoring, 3 power play goals? That'll teach them. Maybe. Craig Rivet has played in 1,000 games in his career. Playing in Boston now. Didn't get a point. That happened against Tampa Bay. Craig Rivet is 37 years old. He is a star and a half. And in that same game, David Krejci had a great game. He had a goal and 4 assists against Tampa Bay. And Oleg Tverdovsky with Columbus also had a memorable game. He had a goal and 4 assists against Minnesota. Wow. A few 5-point games there. And there I thought that Jason Spezza was on a good start to the season. Alright, so next game is going to be in a few days. We're going to play our home opener against the Minnesota Wild. Oh, there's been a trade. You guys know I like that. Alright, so very short scouting report and a trade between Washington and Winnipeg. Alright, so Washington sent Matt Ellis and Oscar Osala to the Jets for Maxim Afinogenov and Justin Mappletoft. Yeah, I think the Capitals got the better end of the deal here. It remains to be seen, but Maximov Afinogenov can score some goals. He did score 27 last year, 60 points. That's pretty good. Matelis is definitely more of a defensive forward. I don't know, maybe that's what the Jets need, but yeah, I would have to give the upper hand to Washington on that trade. It's also an inter-division trade, which gives it that much more impact, at least. Usually that's how it's seen. Like, you know, Boston and Montreal in real life haven't traded in like almost 20 years or something like that. It's just, you know, you don't see that very often. Alright, so Minnesota is going to be in town, and they are 1-1 this season. Obviously, we have not played them this season. Let's take a quick look at their lineup. So Marian Gaborik is not going to play. He is hurt. Alright, and in net it's Backstrom and Matakit, and I think we played them in preseason. I think I remember that, and I remember I forgot to go all the way down for the D's, and I was like, yeah, this is a great D. Yeah, we've seen those guys. Matthew Lombardi is unfit to play, so yeah, and they have Steven Stamkos. That's what I remember now. Alright, so all in all, it's a decent team. Maybe the forwards are a little weak, but the D is pretty good. The goaltending is okay, and there's some good pieces up front, of course, with Gaborik hurt. Doesn't help them with the forward depth for sure. So let's go ahead and continue having a perfect record. So Matt Hackett is going to be in net. So it looks like he's the starter in Minnesota. And we're going to go with Antiniemi because he just got a shutout. That makes sense. Yeah, we did play them in preseason. Alright, so first home game of the season. And we won 3-0. Another shutout. So we outshot Minnesota 43-19. Jason Spezza was the first star. He had 3 assists, an assist on each goal. Pavel Datsyuk was the second star with a goal and an assist, and Erik Karlsson was the third star with a goal. So in the first period, Erik Karlsson scored first from Pavel Datsyuk and Jason Spezza. It was 1-0 Sens after 1. Then in the second period, Alexander Radulov scored on the power play from Braden Shen and Jason Spezza. 2-0 Sens after 2. Then Minnesota took a few penalties in the second period. Then in the third period, Pavel Datsyuk sealed the deal in an empty net from Petrus Bergeron and Jason Spezza. And 3-0 was the final score. Pretty good little game here. Alright, and we are about to play against the Colorado Avalanche at home again. Sergei Mozyakin extends his goal streak to 5 games in Columbus. He had a goal against Colorado. Alright, and Colorado's in town. They are 2-1 this season. We have not played them. Let's take a look. Another team that's not carrying many players. Oh, they do have 2 players on injured reserves that are about to come back too. So Stefan Elliott and Jonas Olos, both defensemen. Stefan Elliott played 1 season in the Sens organization a few years ago. Oh, I forgot to look at the rest of the team. Alright, so in net, yeah, that's not easy in net for Colorado. So they have Joey McDonald and Vitaly Kolesnik, Kyle Gamiski, Tyson Barrie, Kevin Shattenkirk, Jordan Leopold, Johnny Boychuk, Sheldon Brookbank on D. There's a few good pieces there. The D overall is kind of average. Gabriel Landeskog, Gradim Verbata, Mathieu Darche, Matt Duchesne, Brendan Morrow. Yaroslav Linchka. Sorry about the massacring of the name. Manny Malhotra, Cody McCormick, Ryan O'Reilly, TJ Ensick, Alex Tanguay, and Brad Richardson. So forwards are pretty good. Goaltending is really not all that great, and the D's kind of average. Yeah, we should be able to win this. Usually when I say that, we struggle a little. Alright, so Kalishnik in net for Colorado. We're going to Ansiniemi, 2 shutouts in a row. Why not? And we won 6-4, so they peppered us with some shots, at least more than other teams have. So we outshot Colorado 48-31. Pavel Datsyuk was the first star, he had a goal and an assist. Linka was the second star with a goal and an assist as well. And Jason Spezza was the third star with a goal and an assist as well. 17,653 people in attendance for this game. Colorado scored first in the first period. Then Eric Condra scored from Alex Pietrangelo and Joe Thornton. It was tied at 1, but Colorado scored before the end of the period. Made it 2-1 Colorado after 1. Then they took a 3-1 lead at the start of the second period. And then we had Patrick Eves score from David Legwon and Chris Kelly. And then Zach Smith from Alexander Radulov and Sam Gagner. It was tied at 3 after 2. Alright, and then we kind of took control of the game with 2 goals in 35 seconds at the start of the third period. First one was Jason Spezza from Pavel Datsyuk and Yoni Pitkanen, and then Patrick Eves from Eric Carlson and Chris Kelly. Then later, Pavel Datsyuk scored from Andre Mizaros and Jason Spezza. It was 6-3 Sens at that point. Colorado scored 40 seconds later. But it was too little too late. They had about 5 minutes left to go, and they just couldn't get the 2 goals they needed to tie the game. So 6-4 is the final score. Right, and we're gonna go back on the road for 1 game in Washington, and then we're gonna have a 3-game homestand. Greg Zanon is back from suspension in Anaheim, back in the lineup. Alright. Corey Crawford signed an extension with Chicago. 6 years, $31.38 million total, so that's a little bit more than $5 million a year. Yeah, alright. That's pretty good. And Columbus players reinstating Team Kangaroo Court. We haven't seen that in a while. So Mark Savard is going to catch a young player stepping on the logo. And it's somehow going to make the news. Alright, we are in Washington to play against the Capitals. Washington is 3-0, so they are also perfect so far this season. We have not played them. Let's take a look at their lineup. Okay, they have a few injuries, so John Erskine and Jeff Finley are both hurt and not going to play this game. And so is Tim Brent, also hurt and not going to play this game. So in net, they are very, very, very good. They have Braden Oldby and Tuukka Rask. So that's pretty good there. On D, Carl Alsner, John Carlson, Philip Novak, Nathan Page, Mike Green, and Jeff Schultz. Not that great. Now keep in mind John Carlson is only 21 right now, so he hasn't fully developed. He's a 2-star defenseman, so it's not too terrible, not too great either. Brian Bickle at forward, Chris Bourque, Andrew Brunette, Marcus Johansson, Matthew Perreault, Alex Ovechkin, Nick Backstrom, Alex Burrows, Boyd Gordon, Alexei Kegorodov, Tim Brent, Afinogenov, Callahan, Hendricks, and Halpern. That's a pretty strong team. I believe Washington's going to do some damage. We're going to Antiniemi again. Alright, and Tuukka Rask is going to be in net for Washington. And we won 5-2. We outshot Washington 50-23. Patrice Bergeron was the first star of the game. He had 3 assists. Jason Spezza was the second star with a goal and an assist. And Pavel Datsyuk was the third star with an assist. We saw Washington score first in the first period, and then Alex Pietrangelo tied the game from Patrice Bergeron and Erik Karlsson. It was tied at 1 after 1. And then in the second period, Zdeno Chara scored from Pavel Datsyuk and Jason Spezza, and then Joe Thornton from Andre Meszaros and Brooks Laich, 3-1 at that point, but Washington did score before the end of the period, made it 3-2 Sens after 2. And then in the third period, Jason Spezza scored from Patrice Bergeron, and finally Chris Kelly on the power play from Patrice Bergeron and Erik Kondra. 5-2 was the final score. Alright, Sergei Mozyakin extends his goal streak to 6 games with 2 goals against Dallas. Pretty good. Memorable night for Sidney Crosby, who had 4 assists against Buffalo. Also pretty good. Alright, and we are going back home in a couple days to play against the Flyers. Alright, and the young player that stepped on the logo in Columbus is Ryan Johansson. He's 19, so let's see how he develops. Alright, so the Flyers are in town. They also have a perfect record. They are 4-0 so far this season. We are going to look at their lineup. No injuries. Ooh, Flyers like Canadian players, apparently. I see a lot of Canadian little flags there. Alright, so in net, it's Bobrovsky and Salak. So whenever Bobrovsky is in net, it's pretty good. Now the D is still a mystery in Philadelphia. They have a hard time putting a decent D together. So Oscar Bartulis is there, Adam Pardy, Timonen, but it's not Kimo, it's UC, I think. UC Timonen, Mark Fistrick, Richie Regier, and Mike Komisarek. So that's the D in Philly. So now that they have finally a goaltender, they can't get a D put together. Ari Zolnarchuk, James Van Riemsdyk, Mason Raymond, Simon Gagné, Martin St. Louis, Sean Couturier is there, so he's finally appeared. Jeff Carter, Mike Richards, Colin Fraser, Martin Avlat, Matt Reed, Matt Zuccarello, Claude Giroux, Darryl Powell, and TJ Oshie. That, I wonder if that cast of forwards is even better than mine. It's a shame that they have such a crappy D, because the rest of the team is pretty solid. They actually might even beat us. So Antiniemi is still in net. I mean, he's playing pretty well, so I can't really blame Lindy Ruff here. Bobrovsky is going to be in net for the Flyers. We won 2-1, so 2 very good offense faced off against each other, and it's a 2-1 game. And barely any shots. The Flyers got 23, we got 20. Wow. So Patrice Bergeron was the first star of that game. He had an assist. Mike Richards was the second star with an assist as well, and Erik Kondra was the third star with a goal. 18,188 people in attendance for that game. So Erik Karlsson scored first in the first period from Jason Spezza and Patrice Bergeron, and then Erik Kondra from Drew Doughty and Joe Thornton, and it was 2-0 Sens after 1. Then in the second period, Philadelphia scored. It was Martin St. Louis scoring. It was 2-1 Sens at that point. Nobody else would score, so that ended up as a 2-1 win for the Sens. Braden Shen improves at right wing. Alright, sounds good to me. Alright, and the Jets are going to be in town here for the next game. So another good game for Oleg Tverdovsky. So he's had 2 of those this month so far. He had a hat-trick this time against Dallas. Pretty good. Rob Schremp in Edmonton is not suspended. However, Alexei Semyonov in Phoenix is suspended. He's going to miss 4 games. And Cody Hodgson has a good game in Vancouver. He had a hat-trick against the Rangers. All right. Okay, the Jets are in town, freshly after relocating to Winnipeg from Atlanta. It's not going too well for the Jets so far. They are 1-4 to start the season. Let's take a look here. Alright, so Braden Coburn is hurt, so he's going to not play this game. And neither is Dennis Seidenberg, also hurt. And David Schlemko is unfit. Wow. Alright, so in net it's Kari Lehtonen and Andre Pavlich. So the goaltending is okay. Trevor Daley, Toby Enstrom, Seidenberg, Schlemko, Avlid, Dan Boyle, Zach Bogosian, and Mark Stewart on D. So the D's pretty good. So good goaltending, good D. Then Matt Ellis that they just got in a trade. Ilya Kovalchuk, Markus Naslund, Smotherman, Kapanen, Stewart, Stepan, Little, Moore, Imanen, Kostopoulos, Morin, and Makachik. Yeah, the forwards are maybe a little bit lacking. Probably shouldn't have traded Afinogenov. You don't have a whole lot of goal scoring there after Ilya Kovalchuk. But that's just me. Alright, so Jets in town. Kari Lehtonen in net for Winnipeg. Antiniemi in net for us. And we won 5-1. We outshot Winnipeg 39-18. Eric Condra was the first star of the game. He had 2 assists. Andre Mezaros was the second star with a goal and an assist. And Drew Doughty, third star with 2 assists. 17,405 people in attendance for this game. David Legwan opened up the scoring in the first from Drew Doughty, and then Andre Mezaros from Eric Condra and Joe Thornton. 2-0 Sens after 1. Then late in the second period, Winnipeg scored to cut our lead in half, but shortly after Eric Carson scored on the power play from Jason Spezza and Drew Doughty, it was 3-1 Sens after 2. And finally, in the third period, Jason Spezza scored his 5th of the season from Andre Mezaros and Yoni Pitkanen, and Joe Thornton from Brooks Lake and Eric Condra. 5-1 was the final score. Oh God, Sidney Crosby is already at 500 assists in his career, and he's 24 years old. He had 2 assists against Montreal. And that was 12 straight games with a point for him. Alright, and now Columbus is in town. For this game, they are also perfect, and they play the same amount of games as us, so one of us is not going to be a perfect team anymore, so they are 7-0 just like us. One of us gets to stay perfect. Right, another team that doesn't carry many players, Steve Mason and Sean Unwick are in net for Columbus. So Steve Mason has not developed to potential. He's 2 stars, so that could be a little bit of a weakness there. Kent Huskins, Mark Metot, Oleg Tverdovsky, Jay Moore, Rob Scuderi, and Steve Montador. Oh no, it's not Jay Moore, it's John Moore. Are on D. That's a decent D, but not too great. Rick Nash, Joachim Lindstrom, Nikolai Zerdev, Derek Brassard, Valtteri Filppula, Ryan Johansson, Chris Drury, Paul Stachny, Mark Savard, Brandon Sutter, Josef Voracek, Cam Atkinson, and Muzzy Akin. It's a decent team. So Sean Unwick is going to be in net for Columbus. We are going to Antiniemi. And we lost 3-1, first loss of the season. So Columbus gets to stay perfect, and we are not anymore. We outshot Columbus 43-22. Valtteri Filppula was the first star. He had 2 assists. Alex Pietrangelo was the second star with an assist. And Sean Unwick was the third star with 42 saves. And the W, of course. We had 18,447 people in attendance for this game. So Columbus scored all of their goals in the first period, so it was 3-0 Columbus after 1. Then all the way into the third period, Nikita Filatov scored from Alex Pietrangelo, and Zach Smith made it 3-1 Columbus at that point, but it was too little, too late. Seems like despite our shots, we were never in it. Nikita Filatov converts to right wing. Alright. So you and Braden Chun both are playing on the right wing now, apparently. Alright, and we are going to go on the road for 1 game to play against the Hurricanes. Mika Kiprosov has played in 800 games, still in San Jose, 34 years old, 3-star goaltender, and he got that milestone against the Bruins, and he won. Tony Lundman is back from suspension in Calgary, back in the lineup there. Jaromir Jagr extends his goal streak to 5 games with 2 goals and 2 assists against the Devils. And Crosby extends his point streak to 13 games with 2 goals and an assist in that same game, obviously. Alright, and we are in Carolina to play against the Hurricanes. It's still tough for the Hurricanes this season. They are 3-5 so far this season. That's good for 12th in the East. As usual, we're going to take a look at their lineup. What is it with teams not carrying the max amount of players? Oh god, that team is not good. Oof, there's a lot of alpha star players on that lineup. That's not good. So Cam Ward is in net with Mike Murphy as the backup. That's not that great. Then Justin Falk is there, but he's 19 and developing. Casey Barr, Jamie McBain, Brian Allen, Brett Carson, Roman Amerlik, and Derek Meach on D. Not that great. And then up front, you have Zach Dalpe, Craig Adams, and Drew Ladd, who is one of their best player. He's hurt, and he's not going to be playing. Chris Terry, Chris Paddock, Cam Paddock, sorry. Eric Stahl, David Steckel, Victor Rask, Welsh, Skinner, Lemieux, Trudel, and Lysak. Oh, that team is not good. Alright, so Antti Niemi in net for us, Cam Ward in net for Carolina. And we won 1-0. It wasn't easy, but we won. We outshot the Hurricanes 46-16. Cam Ward was the first star despite the loss. He made 45 saves. Eric Stahl was the second star with no stats, and Joe Thornton was the third star with an assist. And the only goal of the game was scored in the first period. It was Eric Carson's 5th on the power play from Alexander Radulov and Joe Thornton, and that's it. Very little else happened in that game. Bo Bennett in Pittsburgh will miss 5 months. A fractured knee against the Islanders. Yikes. And in that same game, Jaromir Jagr extends his goal streak to 6 games. He had a goal and an assist. And Crosby extended his point streak to 14 with a goal and an assist as well. And Denny Briere got 500 assists in his career. He had an assist against the Dallas Stars. 34 years old, Denny Briere. He is a star and a half. And we are back home for one game against the Florida Panthers, and there's 3 games left in October. No further punishment for Semin, who is now with the Blues, so not suspended over there. Alright, so the Panthers are in town. They are 4-4 this season. That's good for 9th in the East. Alright, so Markstrom and LaBarbera in net. As usual, Boomister, Kolayakovo, Jason Garrison, Godbranson, Kaska, Petrovic, and Douglas Murray on D. That's average. And I think we played them in preseason. I remember this lineup. Glass, Horton, Molson, Campbell, Dadonov, Kessler. Oh yeah, and then there was the news about Greg Rallo having the unconventional training. Yeah, we've seen that lineup in preseason. Yep, right there. Alright, so Jacob Markstrom is going to be in net for the Panthers. We're still going to Ansiniemi. I mean, he's playing well, so I'm not going to get angry, but yet again, it's another situation where the backup gets a shutout early in the season, and then he becomes the starter. Seems to be kind of a thematic. Doesn't make much sense to me, but whatever. Alright. And we won 5-1. Alright, we outshot the Panthers 42-17. Drew Doughty is the first star with a goal and an assist. Zdeno Chara is the second star with a goal and an assist as well. And Alexander Radulov is the third star with 2 assists. 16,407 people in attendance for the game. So nobody scored in the first period. Then in the second, we had Eric Carson score on the power play from Joe Thornton and Jason Spezza. Then Zdeno Chara from Drew Doughty and Eric Condra. It was 2-0 Sens after 2. Then there was a fight as well between Alexander Radulov and Anthony Stewart. Wow. Radulov has a little bit of a feisty thing going for him. He's not really the kind of player to back down much, so... Alright, and then in the third period, Florida scored, so it was 2-1 at that point, and then Jason Spezza scored on the power play from Joe Thornton and Eric Carlson. Drew Doughty scored from Alexander Radulov and Sam Gagner, and finally Pavel Datsyuk from Alexander Radulov and Zdeno Chara. It was 5-1, and there was another fight. Wow, Eric Condra got in a scrap with Tanner Glass. I don't think I've ever seen Eric Condra fight. Maybe he did in that playoff series against Montreal. I don't think he did, but maybe. Good night for Mike Camilleri, who had 3 goals and an assist against the Stars. Pretty good. Alexei Semyonov is back from suspension in Phoenix. Sidney Crosby extends his point streak to 15 games with 2 goals against the Islanders. Alright, 2 games left, and it's going to be a back-to-back. First in New York against the Rangers, and then back home against Toronto. Alright, and it starts tonight. So we're going to be at Madison Square Garden. Rangers are 5-3 so far this season, so that's better than they've been for the past few years. They are now 6th in the East. Let's take a look here. Another team that doesn't carry the max number of players. I'm not sure what's going on with that. I don't know if it's the AI that's struggling with the salary cap or what. So Lundqvist is the starter with Al Montoya in net, so no problem in net for the Rangers. The D is also pretty good. Curtis Foster, Dennis Weidman, Mark Stahl, who was just traded to Detroit in real life, Matt Gilroy, Dan Girardi, and Fedor Tutin. Up front, they have Fleischmann, Korpikoski, Carl Hagelin, Fernando Pisani, Curtis Glencross, Anisimov. Mike Fisher signed with, he signed there. I traded him to Nashville. They didn't keep him after all. And he signed with the Rangers. He's hurt, may or may not play. Tim Jackman, Warren Peters, Jonathan Chichu, Teddy Purcell, Petruzalek, and Sheripanov. Alright. Atsiniemi, Henrik Lundqvist. And we won 2-1 in overtime. It was in the shootout, actually, so we outshot the Rangers 52-16, and Rick Lundqvist first star with 51 saves. Curtis Glencross was a second star with a goal, and Pavel Datsyuk was the third star with a goal as well. So both regulation goals were scored in the second period. Pavel Datsyuk scored with 1 second left to go in the second period. It was his fifth short-handed from Patrice Bergeron and Alex Pietrangelo. Tied at 1 all the way to the shootout. Oh god, there were a lot of people going. Finally, Drew Doughty ended it with a goal in the shootout. Right, and then we turn around and go for one more game this month against Toronto. A big game for Thomas Vanek, who had a hat-trick against Florida. David Perron is suspended in Montreal. He's going to miss 3 games. Dan Boyle has reached 500 assists with the Jets. Got an assist against Tampa Bay. 35 years old Dan Boyle, still a 3-star player. And Sidney Crosby's point streak ended at 15 games. Did not get a point against Toronto. So, alright, I'm going to go ahead and pause here for a second. I'll be right back. Alright, and I am back. So, if you still don't know if it makes a difference in the sound when I press the pause button or not, maybe not. And since that game doesn't have music, whenever, unless there's an update to my software that kind of messes up with my settings, that was a mistake, but typically there's no music, so I'm not sure that there's even, that you guys can even tell when I pause. But anyway, so I am back, and there's only one game left here in October, and we have the Toronto Maple Leafs in town. They do have a pretty good record. We did beat them to near the start of the season, but they are 7-3 right now, so that's pretty good. They are 5th in the East, and of course we've played them earlier this season, so we know their lineup, and we are 1-0 against them. Alright, so Jonas Gustafsson is going to be in net for Toronto, and we are going to Brian Elliott. Hopefully he gets a shutout so that he can get going and get the starter position back. Nope, we actually lost 2-1, so yep, that happened. Alright, so we finished the month on a bad note here with a loss. We did outshoot Toronto 36-13. Jason Williams was the first star of the game. He had a goal. Braden Shen was the second star of the game with a goal as well. And Leo Komarov was the third star with an assist. 17,064 people in attendance for this game. So Toronto scored first in the first period. Then Braden Shen tied the game in the second period from Yoni Pitkanen and Nikita Filatov. And then Eric Cole scored a power play goal late in the third period to give Toronto a 2-1 lead. Who was in the box? Eric Carson was in the box when that happened. Alright, so we finished the month at 10-2. That's nothing to sneeze at. That's, pretty good. But of course, we would rather have a perfect season so that we have something really incredible to talk about. So, that ends the month here. We have one more click to go through. Alright. Alright, and Sidney Crosby was the offensive player of the month in the league, and Antti Niemi was the goaltender of the month, so can't get too upset at Lindy Ruff for starting Antiniemi if he's, you know, the best goaltender of the month. So that's that. So we're gonna take a quick look at the standings. So we are first in the East. Pittsburgh is right behind us, 2 points behind. They did play one more game than us. Always seems that every season Pittsburgh has more games played than us when I look at the standings. Alright, and then in the West, Columbus is first. Oh, they managed to lose a game eventually. They are 11-1. LA, Minnesota, Chicago, Nashville, St. Louis, Phoenix, and Vancouver. Alright, usually I say, you know, which team is the worst in the league, but there's many teams with only 6 points. So Colorado and then a bunch of Eastern teams. Carolina, New Jersey, Islanders, and Lightning all have only 6 points. Alright, so we already know that Jason Spezza had a pretty good start to the season, so we're going to go ahead and take a look at his stats. Well, everybody's stats, not just his. So Spezza has 17 points in 12 games, and he's the only one that's a point per game. After that, we have Carlson at 10, Thornton at 9, Datsuk and Bergeron at 8, Doughty and Condra at 7, and then, you know, it just goes down from there. Then in the league, the best goal scorer is Sidney Crosby with 10 goals and Sergei Mozyakin with 10 goals as well. So, and then the best passer is Crosby with 15 assists. And the best scorer is obviously Crosby with 25 points. Our best is Spezza at 17. So he has some work to do. Oh, David Desharnais is having himself quite the season in Pittsburgh right now with 18 points. Probably helps to be playing with that kind of offense there. Alright, so that's pretty much it for today. So we're sitting atop the standings. Doesn't mean anything anymore. We got eliminated by Montreal last season. So, yeah. So we are going to be doing November next time. Looks like it's going to be a pretty busy month with a very long road trip there. So that's it for today, folks. As usual, I do want to thank you for tuning in, and if you've liked this video, please feel free to like, subscribe, share, comment, all of that good stuff. And until I roll this game again, I'll see you guys next time. Thank you.